You know there's too much deception. You can't put poo between bread and call it a sandwich and not make it not stink because of the bread. It's still stinky shit and I'm not eating it. If you go through this enough times, they recognize it and they say, I don't even want to do this anymore. Especially if every time you go through one of their processes, you say, okay, I accept that. Doesn't this mean that then? Ha ha ha. If you learn every time you go through it, it gets to a point where they don't want you to go through anymore because you're arming yourself every time you go through it. You're just understanding their process better. And if you're a big loudmouth like I am, they know that I'll start telling people everything I learn. Okay, I'm telling people about that one. Oh, damn it. In order to find your freeman status, you will need to distinguish. There is a maxim in law that says, he who distinguishes well learns well. He who questions well learns well. If you cannot question, you cannot distinguish, you are going to end up being a slave to them. The reason questioning is so powerful, if they ask you a question, you ask them a question right back. We're equal. We're playing tennis. The goal is to get them to answer the question first, answer none of their questions. The reason is, if you are asking questions, the assumption in law must be that you are asking because you don't understand and you want to understand so you can keep the law. The assumption is, and therefore, as long as you are continually asking questions, they can't do anything. They can't claim you're obstructing justice. They can't claim that you're not that you're in violation of any statute. Just keep asking questions. Lutz, when he was in court, this was clever. He would be asked a question, and he would sit there 4 minutes. What does that word mean, and from where did you get the definition? And the prosecutors, Your Honor, are you going to allow this? You asked him a question, his freedom is on the line, and I think he's being very wise thinking about your questions before answering. The judge loved him. And this judge, I mean, this was after I had been on the stand, so he kind of liked me and my response. And Lutz said something very telling, said something along the lines of, well, I don't understand the Income Tax Act, or I don't stand under the Income Tax Act. And the judge said, well, what do you mean? He said, I don't understand it, I don't stand under it, I don't grasp it, comprehend it, or seize it. I don't understand it. The judge said, welcome to the club. Right there I said, we won, we won. How can you claim you don't understand the act and then use that? And you should have seen the prosecutor's head at that time. Crap. If you learn to distinguish between actual law, and there is only 3 ways to break the law: harm another human being, damage someone else's property, use fraud or mischief in your contracts, you have broken the law. That's the only way to break the law. If you distinguish between statutes and law, you're on your way. You need to distinguish between these. If you can distinguish between the City of Edmonton, which is actually properly called the Corporation of the City of Edmonton, and Edmonton City, you can distinguish between the legal entity, which is where all the bylaws are, because if you look up definition of bylaw, you know what it says? Rule of a corporation. So why are these corporations imposing these rules upon you if you let them know, I'm not even, oh yeah, I'm walking down the street in Vancouver City, but that doesn't mean I'm a person in the Corporation of the City of Vancouver. We went in, I've got a little vest with a hidden video camera on it. We went in and we served notice on the Chief Licensing Officer or Chief Bylaw Enforcement Officer in the Corporation of the City of Vancouver. And when I say serve notice, I mean we served a notice. Oh yeah, we walked right up. Hey, we got a notice for you just to make sure you can see it, and here's a jar of olives. God's peace to you. Okay, no, we see it. Thank you. Said, okay, so we're planning on opening up a little place. We're going to call it Shepherd's Haven. We're going to sell beer, wine, and what's that other thing? Oh yeah, pot. You don't have a problem with that? No, we have no problem, Mr. Menard. You don't need to talk to us anymore. Thank you very much. Fine. If you distinguish between driving and traveling, a driver is someone who is engaging in commerce on the highway and is paying for it. They'll point to the driver's seat and a passenger seat. What if you're just traveling and your passenger is actually a guest? If you can distinguish between driver, guest, passenger, and owner, that's when you start finding your freedom there as well. I'm not a driver, I'm not engaging in commerce, and I'm not asking you for a license. If you distinguish between an enforcement officer and a peace officer's duty is to keep the peace. An enforcement officer's duty is to enforce either court orders or ensure statutory compliance. They are breaching, their primary role is the peace officer. And they are actually breaching their duty to the peace if they try to act as an enforcement officer without actually having evidence of person status. Hold them to that. Distinguish between those. If you can distinguish between de facto and de jure, de facto means, okay, we're there but we're fraudulent. We're fulfilling these duties just because no one else is. But it's actually fraudulent. De jure means it's done under law. It's a proper lawful court. Ask the courts. You know what they hate? Is this a de facto court? You're actually asking them, is this a fraudulent court? And it is a de facto court, and they have to answer it. Person and human being, and the owner and a limited access user. Now it boils down another question that they hate. Whose courts are these? They'll try telling you, oh, these courts are yours. Really? Do I have full and complete access? Ownership is determined by access. An owner to property has full, unconditional access to their property. If you only have limited access to that property, you cannot claim to be an owner. You don't have full and complete access to any of these courts because you do not have a right to create the acts that are being used. You don't have the power to file documents, and you are barred from earning a gain or a fee or a reward from acting as an agent for anyone in court. Now, if this is the case, and there's another party that does have fuller access to the courts, who do they belong to? What if these courts are just private courts for the law society that you are making use of because they get you into their little deception? They've created a box for themselves, said this is the law for us, but we assume that it's the law for everyone. Any questions? Yep.
Which one?
Whoever. If you abandon that corporation, it's the corporation that's liable, not you, or the legal fiction.
And that's the required step that happens over and over.
No, the notice of understanding and intent and a claim of right is what you will be doing over and over, essentially. And
you want to abandon the corporation. You want to deregister your car.
that's what I suggest. Some people would say, well, you know, I want to keep this. There's some benefits involved. And my question I would ask then is, when have you ever in your life benefited from a deception that was imposed upon you? If what they're selling is such a good thing, why do they have to use so much deception?
Because my understanding before I came to this meeting or anything else, I agreed with what you said.
So you're a newbie. You're virgin.
Yeah. I got an understanding that there's a free way to act in my world, and it just came to me that in fact I don't know that free way. I should be free to drive a car in my country.
Distinguish between drive and travel. You are free to travel, but you shouldn't be free to drive, because that means you're going to use public resources to earn a living and to generate a profit. So if you distinguish between drive and travel, if you're just saying, I want to go from point A to point B and I'm not earning any money by carrying a passenger, I'm not carrying any cargo for someone else, you're traveling, and you do have every right in the world to do that, and it's made available to you if you claim, if you serve a notice of understanding and intent and claim your right to do it.
Because it strikes me that all the laws, etc.
Statutes, you mean?
I don't know. All the things that are there that we think are laws, etc. I came to the conclusion that in fact it was the reverse. It was there to protect my right to live a full life, a free life.
These are the rules of government agents. These are the rules that exist so that we can have a measure of control over the government. They've hooped us into getting a social insurance number, so now we're all part of the government. We're all bound by these rules, but we can step away at any time. And when we do, we're free of these rules. They're still bound by them.
Because I want to buy houses and invest in real estate, etc. And I came to appreciate that in fact wasn't that system there to enable me to do that in simple, easy secured way, if you will. So then when I go to buy a property, they say, what's your social insurance number, and on and on and on and on.
You tell them you don't have one. And if you sense that, oh, they're going to want this, they're going to want that, all you have to do is see that this is a potential for conflict, and you take care of that by creating and signing a notice of understanding and intent. Put them on notice. Claim your right. Watch what happens.
Because the lenders, of course, never have to enter into they don't have to lend the money if I don't satisfy it.
That's a whole different story. You've got, my friend, there's a whole lot you should learn before you go buying property like that, because chances are you can just discharge it anyways.